your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online, and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
With over 15,000 coolers available to hire or buy, HSS Hire has a cooling solution for every workplace. Research shows staff are happier when their surroundings are comfortable. And with HSS Hire's range of fans, air conditioners and coolers, you can transform hot and stuffy into cool and calm. Drop into your local HSS. We've branches nationwide in Dublin, Waterford, Cork, Limerick and Galway, and get up to 50% off your first hire. HSS Hire, you're better equipped.
The Hurling Show. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Hello, welcome to the Hurling Show here on Off the Ball. I'm Shane Stapleton. If you have any questions, queries, whatever it is, send them in on hashtag The Hurling Show to Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, whatever way you're watching it. It's a packed show as always. We're heading for the All-Ireland final, Tipperary against Kilkenny, same as it ever was. Joining me in the studio at the moment is Will O'Callaghan. How are you doing, Will?
Good afternoon, and an empty chair.
We have a nice little empty chair here. We have Michael Verney of the Irish Independent coming in shortly. And for those who missed the show last week, I'm sure you didn't, but if you just happened to miss it, we did a big hurling quiz that you oversaw, Will.
Well, I asked the questions at least.
Well, what happened?
Well, Michael Verney was doing quite well after 2 rounds of the 4. Looked like he had it in the bag. Then it slipped away on him. You made a late comeback in the final couple of quarters, and you won in the end ultimately by 1 point, which meant that Michael Verney has to do a pre-arranged default forfeit that we came up with, which was he had to wear wrestling gear in today. To remind people, it could have been a lot worse for you. You could be in full Kilkenny garb.
Yeah, I know. I was really sweating it there because those questions were...
They were pretty tricky.
They're as hard as you're going to come across, and I think I fluked it across the line once or twice. I think we have Michael Verney almost ready to go here, just waiting for the thumbs up. Yeah, he's ready to go. Michael Verney lost his forfeit. Here he comes. Verney, what do you got? Oh my God. Outstanding. Outstanding. The macho man, Michael Verney.
Hollywood Mike Verney. Hollywood Hulk Verney.
Oh, that's absolutely exceptional.
That's the crack, boys.
You've delivered.
Big shout out to Niall over in WrestleMania over in Stephen's Green. He basically hooked me up. Lovely set of pants and everything. Yeah, good old crack.
Incredible belt as well.
Nice, isn't it? It's tasty, yeah.
That is brilliant.
I nearly put the NWO on it, Will, boy.
I don't think he would have appreciated it been spread on.
No, it's mine. I couldn't deface it, yeah.
That's incredible stuff.
What's the crack, boys?
He's gone.
Give it a little stand up and a twirl there. They want to see you on the camera. Look at that. Hollywood Michael Verney. Look at those pipes. That's not bad. You get a few Tinder dates out of that.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
All credit to Michael Verney. That's incredible stuff.
What's the crack, boys?
I like that you committed.
Yeah. Oh, you have to commit, yeah. Full duck or no dinner.
Yeah,
Full duck or no dinner.
That's brilliant stuff.
Don't have to be able to keep the tash on and do my best.
There's going to be people watching clips of this show wondering what the hell is going on.
Yeah. I'd say there's people watching clips of the show every week wondering that, Will, to be honest with you. So.
Well, do you know what it brings to mind? I wonder who you'd be able to take on. I seen Khabib Nurmagomedov
good work
in Kilkenny garb this week.
Yeah, and he was wearing it around for the whole day by all accounts as well. Yeah,
it's poor enough shirt on him, wasn't it? Great.
I was just expecting McGregor to come out in the Tipperary shirt. That was
I know McGregor's a bit of a disgrace at times. Don't think I'd want him wearing the blue and gold, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's a pity now you weren't wearing the Kilkenny jersey now this week. That was the plan. Full regale, Kilkenny regale.
I'm delighted. Look, there's Khabib. Yeah, he absolutely hammered the snot out of McGregor. Would you be able to take him down?
Well, hurl maybe. That's about it.
You'd wear it off him.
That's about it, to be honest with you now. Yeah.
Well, fair play to you for committing.
No bother. I'm gonna uncommit to the moustache now because it's gonna keep coming off.
Yeah, that's grand. That's grand. Are you excited about the All-Ireland final?
Yeah, it is brilliant. Yeah, it's weird. It's the same feel but a different feel. To me, like, it's the same final, like we've had a lot, but there's just a different feel to it. There's so much on the line as well. Cody looking for retribution from the 5 in a row. Sheedy, like if Sheedy were to win All-Ireland in his first year back, it'd be an absolute joke, really, like, wouldn't it, in fairness? And it's probably the rubber match between the two of them. They've played 2 finals, 1 each. Winner takes all, I suppose, here on Sunday.
Will?
Yeah, 2009 and 2014 finals were on TV over the last week, so rewatching 24 replay particularly is just an absolutely insane game. And then, like, it was a remarkable rivalry, despite the fact that Kilkenny won so many games in the 2009 to kind of 2015 period. But yet we remember Tipperary winning a couple of the big ones along the way, particularly stopping the 5 in a row. And like, it is quite remarkable. I know there has to be massive asterisks behind it, but the idea that Sheedy could win back-to-back championship games against Brian Cody with so much on the line in both of those championship championship games as well would be quite remarkable. I think the fact we haven't had these teams in the final since 2016 has just freshened everything up. So there's an old feel about it, but yet there's a freshness about this final as well, and just remarkably exciting. And it's such a difficult game to try and call.
Sheedy be the only manager to beat Cody in 2 finals as well. Jimmy Barry, Donal O'Grady, Sheedy and Mick Ryan.
Micheál Donoghu's beaten him back to back. I know they weren't both finals.
The most times any manager beat him in championship games.
Had beaten him in the last 2. I think we have a quick word coming up from Brian Cody here, albeit it's not Brian Cody, it's a man doing an impression of him, so hopefully we have that coming up shortly here.
Brian, is it true to say that you are the Kilkenny manager? Well, no, I wouldn't say I'm the manager now. Nobody would really need to manage them players. I'm just the man that's there. I'm very lucky and privileged to be from Kilkenny, and I'm just there, and the lads, the team is picked, and we go out and we play a game, and I'd be privileged to be there in a t-shirt that might say Bonish Door, but I wouldn't be, I wouldn't class myself as that at all.
Yeah, that's the impression of Nisha Waldron. You can find a bit more of that on my Twitter @Shane Saint.
The quality to Tommy Walsh is absolutely top class.
Tommy Walsh,
there's of course a few like stock Cody phrases that you can always try, and every game to go on live its own, and all these kind of ones, and the Tommy one is top notch as well.
Yeah, it's unreal. What do you think is going to be the winning and losing of this game, by the way? Let's just jump straight into it. What's the first thing that springs to mind?
To me, it's just the type of game it's going to be. Like, I just can't see Kilkenny winning a shootout, but I can't see them allowing a shootout to unfold either. And I think it mightn't be as tight as the Limerick game, given that they made Croke Park look small that day.
Yeah.
But I think they will try and pack things and confine things as much as possible. It will be the antithesis of the 2016 final. The exact opposite. There will be no space in front of Seamus Callan. And Tip are going to have to be creative to get around that, to get their scores, in my view. Not the whole time, but they will have to be creative and probably have to come out the field a bit to get their scores. That's the intriguing thing for me, is what type of a game it's going to be, and I think it'll be that type of a game. I think it'll be that tight, really physical, in-their-face stuff. Not the 2016 final, not the 2016 drawn game. Real hard-hitting, real compact, in-your-face stuff.
Well, do you think that's what Kilkenny want, really, don't they? And it comes back to the whole do Tipperary have balls thing that Jackie Tyrrell has questioned in the past.
He's stoking the fire again this week.
Yeah, well, he actually said any time they've beaten us, they've just hit a level that we couldn't sustain. You think of 2010, you think of 2016, but any time it's been nip and tuck, Kilkenny just seemed to get over the line and expect a tight finish. We even saw that this year in the league when Kilkenny won by a point down in Thurles. They definitely fancy it when it's close, whereas Tip need to really sprint off into the distance to win these games.
Yeah, I think we've spoken a few times during the year as well about the fact that maybe Tipperary have a bit more variety in terms of the ball they get into their forward line and in terms of the shooters that they take on this year as well. They're going to need that this weekend, because there's no way that Kilkenny defence allows space. They're going to be double marking, particularly the area in front of the square. Like we've seen the damage that Seamus Callan has done this year already. They can't afford anything like 2016 when they lost out by 9 points and were just far too open in the final. Like, it'll be interesting to see how Tipperary deal with maybe if Kilkenny come with that kind of manic aggression that they showed in the first 15-20 minutes of the game against Limerick as well. I think Tipperary will be far more primed for that than Limerick were, and I think you could have a very intense battle, particularly around the middle of the field. It was interesting watching the 2009 final again the other night, and it was amazing the amount of time that the ball spent between the two 45s in that game, with just the amount of hooks and blocks and the intensity of the occasion as well. We could see something very similar to that this coming Sunday.
Yeah, we're going to get a clip here from Derek McGrath talking about his preparation for the 2017 All-Ireland final against Galway. But if you just jump back to that season in 2016, Kilkenny started the final with TJ Reid midfield. I mean, that tells you how
desperate.
I suppose, yeah. Like Michael Fennelly had an excellent replay against Waterford in the semi-final, but did his Achilles, and that guaranteed that they were going to have to put TJ out there, taking your best forward out of your attack.
There were two best forwards midfield.
Yeah.
Richie started midfield as well.
Yeah.
Against Waterford, maybe not in the final, but
I don't think he did
Waterford.
in the forward, because I think he was wearing number 11. He got a goal at one stage. I think John McGrath scored a goal and then straight back down the other end. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but we've got a clip from Derek McGrath. He was in on behalf of Electric Ireland, who sponsored the minor championship. He was talking to Joe about learning for the preparation for the 2017 All-Ireland final.
I won't tell a lie, we won the semi-final on the Sunday. I think it was the 17th of August at the time, I'm not particularly sure. And my family were out on holidays in Mallorca, and I went out on the Tuesday and came back on the Wednesday for training. So Monday we had meetings all day around ticket allocations, trying to get the things out of the way, trying to organise the media day for the following Monday. And Tuesday took off on a plane for one night. and I went out there on Tuesday morning. Went out there Tuesday morning and came back on Wednesday afternoon. We were training Wednesday night. So I got away to the family. But even whilst out there was kind of a little part of me saying, there's no way Micheál O'Donoghu's out here. you know. I know it sounds.
Makes absolute sense.
There's no way Micheál O'Donoghu's out on holidays now. He is planning, and he is planning for this game. And he's kind of, he's probably has his troops in and he has everything sorted. And I'm out here, kind of, in an Irish bar with people kind of looking and saying, that's Derek McGrath. What's he doing here? You know what I mean? He shouldn't be here. So all those things can permeate their way to your mindset as well, which is something to definitely learn from.
Yeah, I'd say the two managers, Cody and Liam Sheedy, have been bet into Nolan Park and Dr. Morris Park for the past few weeks, plotting and planning. And that will take us to the tactics board now. I've decided I'm going to pick what matchups Tipperary are going to go and how they're going to set out their stall. And then, Bernie, you're going to come back with the Kilkenny setup, and Will, you can pick holes in our arguments.
Yeah.
So if I'm to look at, I think Tipperary have learned from the past, or they should have learned from the past, and the Wexford game kind of proved it, that matchups are so crucial. Rory O'Connor was marked by Brendan Maher. He did very well, and obviously Brendan marked Aaron Callan at full-back the previous game, in the Munster final. You saw Jack O'Connor being picked up by Seamus Kennedy, who hadn't been starting, and you saw Barry Heffernan coming in and shutting down Lee Chin for the vast majority of the game. So how do I see this setting up? I think you're going to have John Donnelly on, just to look at the Kilkenny forward line, you're going to have John Donnelly, TJ Reid and Wally Walsh if we're to go by the semi-final teams, and I'd say it won't be too far from it. Then inside you'll have, Adrian Mullen could be, he'll probably actually be on the wing, and Adrian and John Donnelly will be in and out. So Colin Fennelly's definitely going to be full forward, and Richie Hogan in the corner. So for the vast majority, that'll be it. It might even be Richie Hogan, Colin Fennelly, and then a bit of withdrawn like that. But anyway, the main thing is the matchups, and I'm trying to figure out what way will they work. I think it's going to be Ronan Maher on Adrian Mullen. And I know he likes to snipe and get points, but I think in the air, Ronan Maher, he's shown that he's very, very strong in the air, and he's actually good at driving forward too. And would it rattle Adrian Mullen to have Ronan Maher go forward and score a point on him? Now, it mightn't work out like that, but I think, if we saw how Conor MacDonald had 2 points scored off him against Ronan Maher, now Conor scored 2 goals, but still Ronan absolutely won the battle. You could say Ronan will go in full back because he played there the last day against Wexford, but I don't think his pace suits the speed of Colin Fennelly, who's the fastest player arguably the fastest player that Kilkenny have. He'd be up there anyway. I think you might see Barry Heffernan. Now, I think this is where Kilkenny are really, really dangerous. You might see Barry Heffernan in there. There's a school of thought that Heffernan is better following a guy out here, but maybe size-wise, you would think he's pretty fast, he's very strong.
Different type of game in there, though.
It is a different type of game, and that's a fair point.
Could be 8 balls going in, you know what I mean? And it's not like the half-back line where there could be 20 balls.
And they're
you know what I mean?
popped in front as well. Now that's where part of me is even thinking it might be Brendan Maher fullback, because fair enough, Fennelly might have a slight edge in terms of power, but I think Brendan is more likely to out-hurl him and has the speed to maybe even get out in front for a few of these balls. So, but at the moment I think it'll be Seamus Kennedy on John Donnelly. Brendan Maher looks like, I think he'll possibly pick up TJ Reid. Now, they've tried Ronan Maher on him in the past. I think at the league final last year it didn't work at all. Wally Walsh has been marked by Paddy Maher. Remember the 2016 final, and Paddy did really, really well in that game. Colin Fennelly, I'm thinking Barry Heffernan. That's what I'm thinking right now, but I am open to being
John Donnelly picking up?
I have Seamus Kennedy picking up John Donnelly, and then I have Cathal Barrett picking up Richie Hogan. I think they'll want to keep Cathal Barrett's pace close to home, and if you can shut down Richie Hogan, who didn't have the greatest semi-final against Limerick either, I think that Tipperary have some way of the distance gone. What do you think?
There's a school of thought that the Cathal Barrett might come out, but I can't see it, particularly if there's a possibility of a rookie fullback being in beside him. I just can't see it. He offers too much. When you have him cornerback, he's a covering cornerback as well as marking his man.
You could end up having 3 lads. If he goes out the field, you could have 2 or 3 lads in the full back line who are not naturally fullbacks.
I don't understand why you take Barrett out of his natural position either. He's been, he'll close down the gaps there.
I have heard people say that he would go out on Adrian Mullen, and wouldn't it be great to stamp out the guy who is going to be the young hurler of the year? and he has been exceptional. And I get it.
If the ball goes in over them enough, there can be a lot of damage done where Barrett should be. I think you're better off to go with the safety first approach. I would keep him personally close to goal.
The other thing that's going to happen is Dan McCormick will just say ostensibly he's going to start right wing forward. He's going to come in here. I think he's going to stand right there, provide a bit of protection. And if you're the centre back, let's say it's Brendan Maher there, you know, whoever it is, that they know that they can at times gamble because Dan is in front of them. And I don't think, like, on the field in Croke Park when there's a noisy crowd, like this is just from the club final. I remember David Tracy was 20 yards in front of me, and I was screaming at the top of my voice, and there was probably, I don't know, 110, like nowhere near the size of the crowd that's going to be here. There
was a great clip on the game the other night where Tommy talked and they put the crowd noise over him talking. He said, you can't hear a word, and it just drowned out. You kept talking but you couldn't hear a word. Exactly what it's like.
And that's what it's like. So they're like 15 yards away and you can't communicate with each other. So it's going to be very difficult for example, Brendan, to tell Dan McCormick, cover me in front here. So a lot of it's going to have to be instinctive. But I think that definitely that's the way this area is going to be crowded up. In the past, Tipp have left themselves open up the middle to be run through. And I think the Waterford game in Munster this year, Jack Prendergast made a couple of runs up the middle. Dan McCormick sat in here and that kind of snuffed out anything Waterford had thereafter. And I think Tipp are going to go like this. So you could have Pádraig Walsh sitting, an extra man in there, and Callan and John. Actually, I think Bubbles is going to stay inside this time because when he was on the wing against Wexford, it didn't work. He was better inside.
Just on the Dan McCormick thing, it's interesting, and with the noise and everything, I think that's literally just Mayor Forna is in, Tommy Dunn or whoever's in, and it's just a flick and he knows to go back. It's not because he's done the role several times, in fairness. Going to be interesting. Can I just move on to the Kilkenny side of things?
Yeah, please.
Very interesting, and something I noticed particularly against Cork. So when Anthony Nash up here was looking down at puck out, Owen Murphy tended to be sometimes out around here, out around the 21, and it just made Nash kind of realise when he looked up that area is flooded. Like, he's just been an extra body and kind of a nuisance. He wasn't playing any role, but he
possibly wouldn't have even attacked it.
No,
do you know
100% he wouldn't have. It was too dangerous.
If anyone was at Croke Park last week, they would have seen Jason Sherlock in on the field a lot of times, and even the medics came up and got in the way of Rob Henley slightly at one stage.
That was bad. It ran across his eye line almost.
And we know about Greg Kennedy in Dublin this year, and you know, snapping a lovely ball. But I just felt that Jason Sherlock was running in here. Even if he was doing nothing but handing out water, he was almost just getting in the eye line of if it was Rob Henley and sort of covering a man.
Yeah.
And it just gets into your head, and
No, it's very smart. And again, Owen Murphy, like, you're in a totally helpless situation from the opposition puck out, and he's making himself helpful.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. That's just taking it to a new level. Actually, there's a profile of him tomorrow, and David Herity just talks about him and, like, talking about him as the greatest goalkeeper of all time. And I think in a couple of years, if he stays going, he probably will be. But that's just one kind of tactic that they've been at. The matchups are a funny one. It's kind of like the Mayo Dublin game last weekend. All the matchups are on the Mayo and Tipperary sides. I don't think there's many matchups on the Kilkenny side.
You think Kilkenny will play their positions?
I think they'll play pretty orthodox, and that's very unusual for Cody and Kilkenny against Tipperary. You obviously had Jackie following Lar several times. You had Tommy making sure he was on pad work. You had different lads on different lads. I think someone was designated to Mark Bonner in the 14 replay. Kieran Joyce, they had just brought in specifically for that. I think they'll play fairly straight up. I think it'll be Owen Murphy, Paul Murphy, Hugh Lawler will stay full back, I think, regardless of who comes in on him, whether Callan starts there or whether Jason Ford or Bubbles or anybody comes in. Joey Holden, and then you'll have Pádraig Welch again sitting back centre back. You'll have Paddy Deegan and Conor Fogarty as well. And just on the midfield is interesting, in particular from Kilkenny. It's probably the only place where there could be a change.
Yeah.
And if Cillian Buckley is 80% fit, I think I'd be starting him in an All-Ireland final.
In midfield?
Even
though I would say he's far better in the half-back line than he is in midfield. And midfield is the hardest position to play on the field.
He is, but you're kind of taking one of their most solid lines and moving it to accommodate someone. Like, if Conor Fogarty moves midfield, he probably will do a job, because he always does a job. But you're still taking a risk just to get Buckley into his preferred position. I think he got over 35 minutes the last day. I reckon he'd probably start instead of Richie Lai, who...
He had a knock before the game.
Yeah, he did.
Semi-final.
And it's clever in a way, because with Bill Sheehan probably out, having Richie Latty, who has proved himself as a brilliant impact sub in recent years, to come on would be a big boost for them. Under the Tipperary puckets, I know that the board is kind of muddled around here obviously as well. We talked about Owen Murphy being here. You know, what he might start here, but he's going to be here when the ball drops.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a serious amount of bodies there. the puck-out battle between the two keepers is going to be very, very interesting. The work of Kilkenny's half-forward line the last day was insane. Like, it was just actually insane. The Kilkenny half-backs actually stood, let Gerard Hegarty, Kyle Hayes and Tom Morrissey drop back and let them hit the ball back in. But the only reason they hit the ball back in was because of this intense pressure that Donnelly, Reid and Walsh were applying, and even Colin Fennelly and Richie coming out as well. So that line is so important, and you say it before, like, if you're playing wing back or corner back, the ball, your performance depends on your half forward line and the quality of the ball is going to be coming in. If Tipp get on top in the half back line, Kilkenny will be in trouble. If Paddy gets the chance to look up, if these boys get the chance, if Ronan Matter gets the chance to deliver, they want him delivering blind, so they have a chance in here. But this is going to be really, really interesting here. John Donnelly, like I said, John Donnelly was in from the cold basically. John Donnelly hadn't played hardly a minute of championship before the All-Ireland quarter-final, and now he's turned into this. I knew he had great hands, I knew he had great skill. He's turned into this unbelievably robust player who gets in a stupid amount of tackles. So I kind of think, funny enough, if you were to look at the two half forwards, would say John Donnelly and Niall O'Mara, I would say nearly whichever one of them has the biggest impact on the game, their team will have a serious chance of winning. That's going away from TJ and Callan. It's the workers that will probably define the result.
Yeah, it's very interesting where TJ Reid actually ends up playing as well, because I know the suggestion was made earlier this week. I think it was Shane McGrath was saying it, that there's the possibility that Brendan Maher will just be put on, a following job on TJ Reid. He's been the guy who's been put out as the man marker on the Dangerman so far for Tipperary this summer, and that maybe TJ might try and bring him into positions where he's less comfortable. I know he played full-back on Aaron Gallan earlier this year, but could TJ maybe switch in, go towards the full forward line as opposed to starting at centre half forward? Would you not prefer maybe for Kilkenny to actually have TJ getting ball a bit further out the field? It's going to be interesting to see where they actually go. And again, trying to get Adrian Mullen on the ball, because he's been such a live wire during the year. If Kilkenny can get decent ball into him, like, they can do serious damage in that forward line. I know we talk a lot about how good Tipperary are if they get ball in. I wonder as well with Tipperary, you talk about like the workers, how much of a loss Bonner Maher is in terms of this injury. Like, he's been a thorn in the side of Kilkenny many times, and particularly he's occupied Kilkenny half backs many times in big games
and
as well.
And he can solo in behind and create that goal chance.
Yeah.
And that brings me on to the next point, which relates to Bonner. Who's going to win the puck outs in that half forward line for Tipperary? Because the chances are, like Dan McCormick, as I said, is going to come back, but he'll probably push forward for the puck outs. Who's going to be contesting him? Is it Niall O'Mara? And I'm not saying, like, he's a very, very good player, but I don't know if he's going to win 3 or 4 puck outs. Yeah, I don't know if Jason Ford is going to. I'm not sure who of those Tipp forwards is going to win you a puck out cleanly time after time.
And there's the question. That's why Kilkenny will flood that area as much as possible. They'll try and cut out the short one as much as possible as well. There'll be lads moving left and right. They'll basically try and cut off every angle and try and make Hogan go long. If he has to repeatedly go long, if he's going long over 80% of the time, they're going to find it hard to get joy there.
Well,
I don't know if they have the natural ball.
If that happens, I don't think Tipperary can win this game. If Tipperary can't win their own puck outs, whether they go short or long, they're in massive, massive trouble. And we know about Kilkenny and the fact that the forwards will all stand up, face the puck out, have their hands up in the air with the hurley as well. Just, again, much like a Waterboy coming in or Owen Murphy coming out.
Just a distraction as well.
A distraction. And it's Brian Hogan's first All-Ireland final, which can't be overestimated. Kilkenny do have a huge edge in terms of experience, and the fact that Owen Murphy, if you wanted, he can double up as a bit of a cheat sweeper at the back too. He can come out here and just get into a player's head and just let him know, I'm right here beside you, because he's an outfield player with his club.
Kilkenny will try and spook Brian Hogan. Yeah. 100%. Like, what have they always done? They've always gone after an inexperienced player. He's probably the most inexperienced player to have, I'd say. They will go after him, and by go after him, I mean, I'd imagine there will be a couple of balls bombarded in around the square early, and I'd imagine Colin Fennelly will run through him at some stage. And I'd imagine they will they will try and put that pressure on, and they will try and spook him early on the puck outs as well. And it's going to be a big test for him. It'll be very, very interesting.
He was a centre back with his club growing up, so he can hurl as well. It's not that he can't, but the experience deficit is definitely there. You can't ignore that. The Kilkenny half back line isn't massive either, and we've talked about this throughout the year. Conor Fogarty, very good player. Pádraig Walsh, brilliant player. Paddy Deegan, really good player. They're all very good, but they're all 6 foot ish and maybe slightly under in some cases. So as much as Tipp got annihilated in their puckouts against Limerick, and that half back line is all, I'd say you could average at 6'3", Tipp won't be coming up against that here. And maybe you might see Seamus Callanan out to contest a few, and if Tipperary are switched on, they'll be thinking, how can we turn this into an opportunity? And it should be a case of, if we have to, just flick down the puck out and we'll get to the breaks first. Kilkenny are famous for it, but maybe we'll turn their strength into ours.
I'd hazard a guess and say that you won't see more than 3 or 4 balls going down the middle. If Pádraig Walsh is really the one that's going to catch ball in the air, the other 2 boys are more breakers, are going to stop the ball from going through. I don't envisage too much ball going down the middle there. Interesting as well, the midfield is kind of a funny one, and I thought even picking our combined 15 last week kind of nearly struggled to put the 2 midfielders together. So like, of the 4 there, obviously Noel McGrath is an absolute standout. Conor Brown is very, very raw. He got on the ball a few times against Limerick, was hooked and even threw it up in situations he shouldn't have, but he did
his main job.
Yeah, he did his main job. He stopped Cian Lynch to a fair degree, and I'd imagine he will pick up Noel McGrath. Serious athlete. He was joint captain of UCC this year. Interesting one about him, actually. Yeah. He won All-Ireland Colleges freshers with CIT and then transferred over to the enemy and won Fitzgibbon at UCC as joint captain.
Disgrace.
Yeah, disgrace is right. But he will track Noel McGrath, and I'd imagine he will be just in his face. And rather than, like, it won't be a case of Noel McGrath getting on ball and I'm trying to get in his face. I think he will be deny. You know, the old saying, when, you know, if a girlfriend or something like that hears a rumour about you, just deny. He'll try and deny him the ball as much as possible.
And that's why you're still single.
Borderline at the moment.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. We're going to reveal it on the show here. Hollywood Verney.
I've revealed enough now at this stage.
Can we look at the comeback from the Munster final beat? And I think we've an image here from Barry Cleary that might come up in a second. Tipperary, we know they were sundered by Limerick in that game, 12 points.
Sundered?
Yeah.
As in torn asunder?
Blown apart,
right.
Yeah. So here's Barry Cleary's tweet. Just a gentle reminder to all Tipperary fans, 4 of the last 9 All-Ireland champions had been beaten by 8 points or more in their provincial final game. So I'll just run through them quickly. 2010, Tipp lost by 10 to Cork. 2012, Kilkenny lost by 10 to Galway. 2013, Cork beat Clare by 8 points, and Limerick lost by 11 points to Clare last year. So it does happen, and it was easy to write Tipp off, but like after that Munster final, and my basis was I didn't think they had troubleshot enough of what was about to happen in the game, especially in terms of puckouts and especially in terms of some of the matchups. But I think they've learned since. They've really learned the hard way. But have Tipp come far enough to be able to win an All-Ireland after this? And let's not forget, Kilkenny lost their Leinster final as well.
Have they come far enough? I think the path was always there for them to get back to a final. The Wexford game was going to be a 50-50 game of sorts. But as you said, I think they have learned a lot. Like, James Barry probably couldn't start the semi-final just based on the Munster final, and they gave him a chance against Laois again. And like, I don't see the argument for him starting the final either.
Colin Fennelly's pace, I think, is too much for most, and I just don't think James' confidence is where it is. And maybe in 2015 and 14 even, like, he was under pressure against Colin Fennelly back then. So I'm not sure now is the right time.
Plus, he'd be bringing a lad in that was essentially dropped for the semi-final and expecting him to play to a really, really high level in the final. Like, that does affect your confidence. So I don't see that. As you kind of said, the way they were playing, and Limerick were giving them the puckouts, giving the cornerbacks the puckouts, they needed to get probably more athletic ball players, lads that were going to be really useful with the ball and hold on to possession. And I think to a fair degree that's what they've done with Seamus Kennedy and Barry Heffernan, and that's a very, very positive change. I don't see them getting any free puckouts on Sunday, but they are good ball players to have to play the style that they're playing.
Was enough made of Barry Heffernan's impact against Wexford? Not only did he shut down Lee Chin, and actually he had moved off Lee Chin by the time Chin got his goal, but he really shut him down from play, and he actually won a couple of scoreable frees. I can't remember if they were converted or not. And he said he burst forward for that Ger Brown chance when Ger Brown lashed it over the bar. I just thought it was an exceptional performance, and maybe he's just not a name that everyone's overly familiar with just yet, but if that was done by someone else that we're more familiar with, people would have been writing songs about him. Yeah,
it's probably the fact as well that, like, Ronan Maher had such a good game that day, and also everyone was kind of talking about McGrath's impact, particularly in the second half as well, that maybe he was just kind of slightly forgotten about as a result of that. But like, if you look back in the Wexford game, particularly in that second half, like Tipperary's defensive unit just worked really, really well together. And like, whatever about the disappointment of the Munster final, you have to take a massive amount from hurling, the best part of half an hour with a man short against the Wexford team who were in the ascendancy at the time of the red card as well. Like, it takes an awful lot to dig in and actually get the result at that point. Like, that has to be a huge lift for Sheedy getting ready for this final as well, you would imagine.
Barry Heffernan was a lucky boy to stay in the field too.
He was. Isn't it amazing the way, like, let's sweep things under the carpet in terms of there's an All-Ireland final there. We won't have any Paul Gascoigne tears around here. Adrian Toohey pulled the lad's helmet off a couple of years ago. Let's forget that happened. Barry Heffernan with the little rabbit punch. Let's forget that happened.
Could you imagine missing an All-Ireland final though?
Over that?
Over anything really. Jesus, you'd be heartbroken, like, wouldn't you? Like, imagine what Conor Gleeson felt. I know Derek McGrath has talked about before, and they tried to harness a kind of passion and a do it for him mentality. Imagine what it must be like to build up to it. It must be absolutely horrible, like.
It was interesting, Dermot McGrath was talking about that last night as well, and he was saying that maybe they didn't go far enough in terms of trying to appeal and take it as far as the DRA, maybe even take it right up to a few days before the game. But he said the reason they didn't do so was because they didn't want that to be a distraction going into the final. There was enough distractions with that week and the fact that guys were getting ready for their first final and so on, that maybe they didn't want that distraction. But it's interesting, obviously Galway ensured they got their captain off for the minor final this weekend. I'm sure Kerry will do everything possible to get O'Brien free to play against Dublin on the 1st September as well. I guess if it was me as a manager, I would definitely be trying to appeal to the absolute last. The idea of anyone missing the final is a killer.
It is a big distraction though. Like, you end up in Dublin, say, like, if you're travelling from down the country, you end up in Dublin, probably not getting out till late. Yeah. The player is probably going to bed at like 2 o'clock that night. Connolly, the time he got off for was the All-Ireland final like in 2012. I think it was, and even he got off in a semi-final before. He didn't play well at all because he'd been in appeals till late the week of the match. Can be a bit of a disaster. Plus, it's taking the manager's attention off what he should be focusing on.
Yeah, like, you're supposed to spend the week or 2 weeks beforehand trying to find ways to distract yourself. Of course, when you're switched on or at training, you're completely tuned into it. But otherwise, you want to get away from it. If you're doing that the week leading into it, that's very tough.
But you're also making your game plan around a player who may or may not be there as well.
Exactly. And even, like, I know there's the whole incident with the sideline cut that should have been a 65 for Limerick at the end. But Limerick in 2013, their minors had that Hawkeye point. Remember when the system was calibrated for football? Yeah. They did an appeal and they were training for over a week after they had been knocked out because they thought they might get back in. I was speaking with Keane Lynch.
Sick. It's even like the time we're awfully going to train. They wanted to train the next morning after the Jimmy Cooney game.
Yeah.
And I think all the boys were on the beer and had like just laughed at Michael Bond when he even suggested it. But like, that must have been a fair difficult mentality to be praying for something that might never happen. Like.
If you were on the Kilkenny or Tipp team this weekend and someone from the opposition offered you a bottle of water, would you take it?
Oh, it's mad, isn't it? Yeah. I'd say they're all told fairly strictly to only drink from their own water carriers, but it's amazing, like, I don't know, like, I'm not saying anyone did anything, but it's amazing the things that go out there, the edges, like having girlfriends' phone numbers and calling them out.
Looking under arms and stuff.
Is that one actually true? I've heard that story so many times in different games.
Yeah, I've heard other stories about one guy being told, well, your girlfriend used to go out with someone on our team, etc., etc. You do hear all this sort of stuff. Would you have had much said to you on the field over the years?
Not really. There was a great one, John Grogan, who was teaching me in Banagher. He said they were playing, I'm not too sure who they were playing, but a fella said to him, he said something about his sister. And he just, I don't know, for some reason he just saw red. I don't know why, he just saw red. The next ball came in, he went to absolutely clave him. And he did cleave him. And then he just turns to him and says, I don't even have a sister. Yeah, I thought that was a good one.
That's exactly what Sudan should have done in the 2006 World Cup final.
Exactly, yeah. It's mostly stuff to do with being a bogger that I get up here playing the Dublin Championship, but...
That's like a compliment, is it not? Yeah.
One lad, one day we were playing... Can't remember who we were playing, but we started the second half, the throw in, and I was midfield, and I flicked someone. No, I got the ball, but as I was trying to run away, I sort of flicked the hurley back to sort of push a man away, but I flicked across him, and the man goes, yeah, that's Dublin hurling. It was just pure confusion. I didn't know what to do. I gave him the ball and just got out of the way. Did not know what to say to that. Can we talk about the hurler of the year? discussion. I know we're one game away from deciding it, but I put up a poll during the week saying who do people think the hurler of the year is. I just narrowed it down just to Seamus Callanan and TJ Reid for now. Someone could come out of the woodpile this weekend, but this is the result. There was 2,298 votes, so that's a fairly decent sample size. TJ Reid with 51%, Callanan 38%, another 11%.
Some top Twitter action, are you?
It's top, yeah. An awful lot of people going for Patrick Horgan, saying he should be in there. Brendan Maher was mentioned a lot, and Noel McGrath. Would you put anyone else in the conversation?
It's hard to, it's hard. It's only going to be a short list of 3. TJ for me is the clear front runner. Yeah. Like, Owen Murphy has been unbelievable off limited enough game time as well. If Brendan Maher shuts down TJ in the final, as he has shut down Aaron Gillan, as he has shut down Rory O'Connor, as he shut down someone else against Cork as well in the first game as well, he'd probably have to come into the equation too. So outside of that, yeah, Horgan's been like insane. But if you're not getting to an All-Ireland final, realistically, you're not getting.
I think that's the enforcing thing for Patrick Horgan in this, is that we are kind of biased towards what happens in the final. And say if Seamus Callanan was to bang in 2 or 3 goals at the weekend, straight away he jumps ahead of TJ in terms of the reckoning. I think if Kilkenny win the All-Ireland, TJ Reid is almost nailed on to it hurler of the year. Jackie
Tyrrell was talking to Owen Shane about it during the week, and let's see what he was talking. He was referring to TJ Reid being lined up for a second hurler of the year award. Let's see what he had to say.
Nice to see the narrative gone. God, if TJ Reid is tell lads, we're in trouble. Yeah, that's been blown out of the water in the last couple of games. Because the last 2 games he has been held scoreless. He's been hugely influential. But Colin Fennelly's come to the table, Adrian Mullen has come to the table, Richie Hogan, Wally, the benches, Billy Ryan of all countries. So it's great to see the credit going to the other guys as well. Of course, TJ deserves it. What a year he's having. Like if he has a decent All-Ireland, Kilkenny win it, and he's the second hurler potentially, and Seamus Callanan doesn't run right, he's going to have his second hurler of the year, and probably will push himself into that conversation as one of the true hurling greats with Henry Shefflin, because this year he's brought his game to a serious level on. If he does that, is he the greatest of all time? Is he the greatest of all time? I definitely think it's a very, very tough discussion as regard. For me, Henry was. It's definitely a discussion. I'd have to look at more. It'll depend on this weekend. With all due respect, Henry probably played with better players around him. To see what TJ done this year, like it's I don't know. I'll hold off on that one yet, but it's very close at the minute.
Grand little T-shirt he is on there.
I saw you modelling something similar on your Twitter.
Yeah, my housemate talked me into one of those kind of wistful, far away sort of looks, and holding an empty cup of coffee. Yeah, I went for it. It was ill-advised, but there you go. It would be Callanan's 4th nomination as hurler of the year if he does get nominated, and if he has any sort of a final at all, he will. Like, he scored 7-16 from play in the championship, which will finish up being the top scorers from play. Patrick Horgan has 6-16, which is very good going as well. But what I want to look at is somebody tweeted this image at me. I actually lost who sent it to me, but I had saved the image in terms of his record against Kilkenny over the years. So in the 2009 final, 3 points from play. This was after Tyrrell absolutely lambasted him with a shoulder into the chest at the start. The 2010 final, 2 points off the bench. They had a poor 2011 final on JJ Delaney. 2013
Shepherd's crook, I have to love that old curly finger. 2013
qualifier, 2 points from the bench. I was shocked he didn't start that game anyway. 2014 he got 5 from play off JJ, then 2 goals in the replay, and in 2016 9 points from play. Hurler of the year nomination 3 times. So, like,
16 he should have been hurler of the year.
Yeah,
if there hadn't been 2 Tip guys going for it,
I'd make a case for Paddy Maher there, but I think any time that you see 2 people nominated, you're basically, that's the All-Star committee saying we want the 2 guys from one team, means basically we're lining up the other guy to get it, because the vote is going to be split.
It happens over footballers so many times as well, where they've had 2 of the 3, and then remember when Andy Moran won, not that he wasn't a deserving winner or any issue with Ozzie Gleeson winning the year that Callanan probably should have won, but that is what happens. Like, I mean, the vote gets split.
Yeah. Stapleton fires shots at All-Star
committee.
Yeah. I'm always firing shots at them, the boys know. We have a couple of comments in, and keep your comments coming in with hashtag the Hurling Show, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it might be. Joe Murray on YouTube, Michael Breen fullback on Fennelly. Also, Conor Delaney kept Callanan to a point from play in the league. I wonder will Cody consider bringing him on as a sub if Callanan is doing damage. I think it's too late in the year to try and Breen on Fennelly, but certainly it's a switch I've been looking for about 3 years. But that's an interesting one on Conor Delaney. because he was really good on him in the league. I felt that the ball being played to Callan was too far out to the sideline. He had a lot of work to do with them. I think if you're a full forward, you need to be collecting the ball around there and on the arc, Aaron Gallan style, or this as well, as Callan did in the 2016 final.
Yeah, Conor Delaney's been fit since the week or two before the Cork game, so he's a good bit under his belt. It's a great option to have if there's a knock or if someone's under pressure. I'd be amazed though if Hugh Lawler doesn't perform capably again. He's been under pressure in a few games. He's marked like the game's best attackers basically in the last 3 or 4 games. He's marked Aaron Gallan, Patrick Horgan, and who was he on? Was he on Conor McDonald in the final as well?
Yeah.
Like, and he's had trouble at different stages, but he's been defiant, like, and always kept attacking ball since. And even the second half, that was no penalty on Gallan in the first half against Limerick here, and he was punished for. So like, he's been an absolute revelation. Like,
let's talk about a message in from Cadboy on YouTube. Come on, the blue and gold, skin them cats again. I agree with that. Richie Hogan ain't the player he was. What do you make of that? I think he's just turned 31.
It's a fair comment. I heard a rumour, whether true or otherwise, that after the Leinster final, Richie arrived with a dossier, shall we say, to Brian Cody, highlighting, shall we say, what the other forwards had scored, and basically to try and increase his own case of playing. And now subsequently he's started the 2 games since. Whether that's true,
do you believe this now?
I might do, yeah. Like, you'd make a case. You would make a case for yourself if you're not playing. He came on the 72nd minute of the Leinster final. Definitely would make a case for himself. If interesting, I went through the stats last night. He's played 9 All-Ireland finals. How many do you think he's finished?
2.
He finished 3, yeah, and he's been pulled off like 56 minutes, 61 minutes. Weird enough, like, there's probably no hope from finishing the game on Sunday. It's fair to say he's not the same hurler, but he will get shots away, and if it's a going day and those 3 or 4 go over, Kilkenny have a great chance. If he has a tendency to hit some baddish wides at times.
Yeah, I think 3 wides against Limerick before he was taken off, and other than Richie Leahy, who we know was carrying a knock, being taken off for Killian Buckley in the first half, he was the first man off, if I remember correctly. So, you know, it doesn't take much for Cody to say, you know, I've seen enough.
That's a weird thing though, like, that he's been taken off in 6 finals. He was taken off as Hurler of the Year in 14. He was taken off.
He did have a bad replay, that was 14 in the replay. He did have a poor enough game. He
was taken off in 11 after getting an unbelievable goal off your brother.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Eddie Brennan had hand passed it over the brother's head. What was he supposed to do? Come on, you've been a cornerback. You've been a bad cornerback.
I always meant to say it to Paddy, he was so unlucky not to get the flick.
I know, sure, he knows himself.
God,
he
he's
says
so
a centimetre.
But he would have stopped one of the great goals of all time, so in fairness, he took comfort in the team.
Sorry, I don't see the comfort in that. Shane Power on YouTube. Shane, Will and Michael, do you think Derek McGrath should go back for a second stint at the Waterford job? Yeah, let's quickly touch on this. Do you think he should?
He definitely indicated last night he's very interested.
I think he's humming and hawing over it. He's not sure. I mean, I would say a lot of people in the county are frustrated with the way the team has been playing, but like, he's brought them really, really close. I've enjoyed watching the team, to be honest, during his tenure. I know 2018 went wrong and there was a lot of injuries and what have you, but those players that are really good, you know, Gleeson is coming into his prime, the Mahanys are around their prime. There's a lot of guys there that are just at that level now where if they don't do it in the next year or 2, they mightn't do it. So I think this is the chance if Waterford want to do something. So it's the chance for Derek.
I don't see him going straight back. I think it's too quick to go back. Even.
He definitely misses it.
Yeah, he definitely misses it. Yeah. He kind of admitted to us yesterday that he hasn't even done like a SWOT analysis almost on 2018 and seen what he's learned from it yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He kind of isn't in that position yet. I kind of got the impression he definitely wants to come back. But he also said it's not his divine right to get the Waterford job.
No.
If it comes free. And Peter Creeley has fairly outstanding credentials, having managed Passage and broke kind of Ballygunner's stranglehold in 2013. He managed Abbeyside to a county final last year, Waterford 21s in the middle of that as well, a selector with Davy. So like, he's probably worth his go. Derek will be back there. I don't think he'll be the next manager, but I think he'll be the one after that.
Mick Ruby says on Twitter, Michael Verney's wrestling career is coming along nicely, I see.
Mick Ruby has given me a nice bit of abuse and little pokings at different times, but I'm glad to see I've got that support. I hope I get a booking in some show somewhere.
I think we've got a video coming up from Shane McGrath, who of course was an all-star for Tipperary back in the day. He was talking about Liam Sheedy and what he brings to the Tipperary preparations. So he was on the show this week.
What would Sheedy say about Kilkenny? Like in terms of what might be going on this week, would he almost bait you in training and say, we have to stop these lads? Everyone says these are better than you, they're not better than you. Would he talk them up? Would he talk them down? Would he ignore them? Would he try and make you hate them? Like, what was his approach to how you were to stop Kilkenny?
I suppose how we were to stop Kilkenny, Joe, was try and get performance out of ourselves first and foremost, and that's what Liam would always say. I mean, if you spend your time focusing on the opposition, you lose track of what you're about yourself as a team and as a group. I mean, as Tommy said, the hurt in 11 got them over the line. The hurt from 09 got us over the line in 10, I feel. And, obviously Larry got the few goals and everything and things went their way. But, an interesting fact I heard recently that Liam is trying to become the first manager to beat Cody 2 championship games in a row. So now I know there's 9 years between the 2 games, but it'd be a nice stat to have. But no, Liam will be totally focused on the boys and what they have to do.
And so would he not have sat in front of you and said, this is how Kilkenny go about their business, this is how we're going to stop them?
No, because Liam wouldn't be the man. He wouldn't be the man to tell us that. He'll leave that up to the coaches. He'll trust the senior players. He'll trust lads, to look at things, and he'll trust his backroom team to have all that set up. Liam is the manager,
okay.
And that's what Liam Sheedy does. He manages everybody from number 1 to I think whatever 39 or 40, whatever amount of lads are in there at the moment. And every one of those lads want the same thing, and they're willing to do whatever it takes. And that's what Liam Sheedy does, no more so than Brian Cody. He gets the best out of every single person, from the goalkeeper down to the lad who will be doing the water bottles and who will be carrying the hurleys on Sunday. And that's what Liam Sheedy gets out of you. He gets the best out of every single person.
So he wouldn't necessarily see himself as master tactician or biggest hurling brain in the room.
No, I don't think he would. And what he does is he gets a great team around him, and Liam trusts his team, and it's all about the team. Like, I mean, I think Brian is kind of an exception to the rule in what he's done has been magnificent with, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 even different groups of people, getting them constantly to semi-finals, finals and being victorious. And for me, he's the greatest sports manager ever, is Brian Cody, what he's done. And I was lucky enough to be up at the semi-final, and just what he did, the way he set up the team and the intensity he got them to play at. He's just unbelievable. But Liam is the manager, and he's going around making sure everybody's okay, making sure that everybody is ready for the battle, and everybody is ready to give whatever it takes for the battle. And that when your card is put up and it's your time to come off, you get off that field, and the other guy coming on is ready to do the job and finish it off. And that's what Liam does. He gets the best of everyone. Tactically wise, he will have some say, but he would leave a lot of that to the Tommy Dunns, Darry Egan's, to Eamon O'Shea to a lesser extent as well this year. And he trusts what they'll do, and the way they'll set up the lads will be the right way to try and win the game, John.
Yeah, I'd say different managers do it different way. Like, I would imagine, like, from working with Matty Kenny, like, he would be right in the middle of the field working on the tactic, developing let's say you want to do a particular thing in the next game, he'd be out there working on the field with you, roaring at you, making sure you do it to the nth degree. So, but it doesn't sound like Sheedy's like that. So, but different approaches can work.
They can. I don't think Sheedy needs to be like that. Like, Brian McDonald from the journalist had up the other day, went through his backroom team, and I've never seen anything like it. There's 6 coaches that would probably be the head coach on any other inter-county team. So you have Tommy Dunn, obviously wealth of experience player, and as a coach you have Eamon O'Shea, you have Shane's brother Cormac, you have Darry Egan,
who was coach or managed Tommy Larkin's last year
as well. And I'm probably forgetting someone as well. I think there's one more, Yvonne Kelly, in his goalkeeping coach too. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's so important, the people around you. Liam is more of a manager, I would say, than a coach. Just something interesting, actually. I kind of happened upon Liam's LinkedIn page, and I just thought it was interesting.
Happened upon?
Yeah. Someone actually sent it on to me. So as down through his kind of like CV, has Tipperary senior hurling team manager, won the 2010 All-Ireland title, 2008 National League, 2008 Munster Championship, inherited the team low in confidence and built them into a top performing team in the country. Designed and implemented a high performance model, taking preparation to a new professional standard and level, developed a high-performing circle consisting of the following values: trust, leadership, excellence, belief, positivity, performance, etc. So Liam can basically copy and paste that and change the dates if they win against Sunday, because he's just done the exact same thing. It will be phenomenal.
Yeah, and they've got it. It'll be a battle of the benches here as well, won't it? Now, Tipperary's the last day. Willie Connors, Gerard Brown, Mark Keogh and Jake Morris all came in and got scores. Alan Flynn came in as well. On the other side for Kilkenny, Who do you think will come in and make an impact? Like, if you look at it there, like Bill Sheehan has been coming in a lot and doing well. James Maher's got pace. He's one of those players where some days he goes to town and some days it doesn't happen.
He could be pushing for a start too. We don't know what's been going on the last 3 weeks. He obviously got the winning point the last day basically as well. Like, do you know what I mean?
Jerry Aylward's an all-star in the past, but he's been a little bit hit and miss. Even though you know he has the potential to get the ball and drive at you, but you're just not sure what will happen after that.
I don't see him featuring because he just hasn't featured at all up until this. They do have some very good subs that can make a big impact. You're looking at the likes of Conor Delaney in defence, probably Jason Clear in defence as well. Liam Blanchfield will probably play. It doesn't look like Bill Sheehan's going to be able to play any part. And probably like Billy Ryan as well. They've got options as well. Yeah. The Tipp bench though, it's hard to underestimate the confidence like a load of those boys have. You know, after even a couple of them after the 20s, like I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Jerome Cattle came in at some stage. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Ger Brown, the pace he showed, they have, like Jim Gavin always says, we don't have subs anymore, we have finishers, guys that are going to finish the game. And almost out of nowhere, Tipp have got a couple of them. They all have good pedigree. Mark Yo, under 21 last year as well. So it's going to be interesting to see there as well. They'll just want to be in the position where they can bring these lads on, and if they contribute like they did the last, I think they got 4 points off the bench, and essentially that was the difference.
If it ends up being one of these open games and Tipp are in a good position going down the last 15 minutes, those guys will come on, and I would say they will add a few scores. If it's a tight, claustrophobic game, I think all those guys with the age and size profile, every one of them will get absolutely snuffed out.
I wouldn't disagree with that, to be honest with you. It depends what type of a game it is. It's like Jason Ford coming on the 16 final. It's like Callan coming on the 2010 final. It depends what type of a game. Seamus Hennessy got a point in the 2010 final again. Depends what type of a game it is. I think it'll be the latter of what you said. I think it'll be really tight and compact, and those guys might struggle to make a difference coming in then.
Before we get into the predictions and a quick look at the minor, we have to look at some of this memorabilia that John Duggan of this parish he showed to me there earlier. This is all his. This is the 1995 All-Ireland final.
It's truly horrible to see that again.
But it's a beautiful programme. Look at this piece of artwork. They were so big back then. Like, if you compare them with the ones in the more recent years, they're nice programs. They're really well put together. But I like the way that these have got the photos from the time of the players. This would be the 2002 as well. That's Henry Shefflin there. Of course,
feel more like getting a book, the 90s one.
Yeah. Look at that as well. It's a tome. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah. That was the greatest tip.
I love that helmet. I love the chin strap. A big fan of the chin strap.
Yeah, and then a couple of tickets from the games. This is the 2010 All Ireland. Who could forget? This is the 2016 All-Ireland. Who could forget? And then this is absolutely brilliant. Jeez, John Duggan seems to keep all the ones that Tipperary win. The All-Ireland Hurling final of 1991.
Oh, that's quality now.
That is beautiful and so well kept as well. So.
And whoever puts the programmes together, please put the teams back in the middle of the programme.
Yeah.
That's a real bugbear of mine. You go to, it's the fold in the middle, you see the teams. Not on the first or second page. It's really annoying. It's actually hard to find the teams.
It's just easy reference as well when you want to open it up after you've closed it or something. Because they're now putting them like 3 and 4 pages in.
I can't get over it. I just think it's bizarre. They're always in the middle. We, as Wayne said in Wayne's World, we fear change. Go back to the way it was.
I'm not going to complain about the programmes. I do plenty of articles for them. I think they're brilliant.
I'm suggesting, I'm not complaining.
How do you think the minor's going to go? Galway are looking for 4 and 5 years.
Obviously beat Kilkenny already as well, so that'll be interesting. They seem to have an unbelievable conveyor belt coming through. In fairness, I think it's Sean McDonough is putting up massive scores in attack as well. Kilkenny can be so hard beaten in the finals as well. Like they usually are so hard beaten. To be honest with you, I probably haven't seen enough to make a firm judgment on it. But I'd probably go. I'm leaning towards Kilkenny double on the day, probably. I'd say.
Because all the talk was about Limerick in this championship. They were expected to win going into the semi-final weekend, and then Kilkenny obviously eked out a result against them in their semi-final. Hard to know with Galway because they killed that Wexford game off reasonably.
Yeah, just out of nowhere they just killed it off. What I'd say is Limerick seemed to rely on Cathal O'Neill, and they had no answers after that. Whereas Kilkenny, Billy Drennan filled his boots. Tommy Clifford, excellent as well. Jack Doyle got a nice goal. James Aylward from midfield, and Liam Moore I think got 4 as well. They had a lot of different guys pitching up there as well. We've got have we another comment in? By God, we don't. What way is the All-Ireland final going to go? Let's call it, lads. Tipperary or Kilkenny?
I think it's 2 types of game, 2 different results. Expansive, open game, shootout, Tip win. Claustrophobic, tight, compact game, Kilkenny win. I think it will be the latter, and I think this would be the greatest achievement for Cody if he can win number 12 with a team that basically no one had in the top 4 or 5 probably coming into the start of the summer. I think Kilkenny will just edge it.
Yeah, I mean, like, wasn't Tommy Walsh the other night talking about this, and he was saying that maybe Kilkenny have been a little bit underwritten this year because, in his opinion, their forward line is probably the second best in the country. He did say Tipperary were the best, in his opinion, the second best team. And his opinion was that maybe as a result, Kilkenny were underwritten, particularly because of the fact that, you know, they had to wait for some players to come in towards the tail end of the league, that maybe, you know, we weren't getting a fair impression even early in the championship of what level Kilkenny were at. But, like, I'm with Verney in terms of the logic. If Tipperary get space, they win a shootout. If it's tight, you've Kilkenny absolutely every chance of winning. I just and I've opposed Kilkenny the last 2 games as well. It's even remarkable that they came through games against Cork and Limerick where they really weren't fancy going into the meet or even just to get to this final. And I hate to be wrong 3 times in a row, but I just get the feeling that Tipperary are actually going to just edge this one again.
I'm like, as a Tipperary person, I can't help but have the Tipperary hat on. I kind of feel like Kilkenny are going to have unbelievable work rate in their half forward line, and they're going to sit in front of the Tipp full forward line, whoever it is that lines up there. I think John McGrath's form hasn't been good, but class is permanent, and I think he could have a big game. I know right now it's just, I think Kilkenny might just do it and it might turn into a battle. As the throw-in approaches, I know on Sunday morning I'm going to be thinking Tipp all the way. That just seems to happen over and over again. So it's complete fear. I'm really torn. I'm hoping Tipp, but the concern there is just too often you've come away with tears in your eyes after Kilkenny games.
Keane Lynch sat in defence, of course, this week. He said it was going to be a draw. Just on that as well, but Cody's greatest achievement, like in form lines, Kilkenny do have the form when you look at it. Yeah. Tipp have, shall we say, the confidence of overcoming a massive obstacle of 14 men and all the disallowed goals, but beating Cork as underdogs, beating the All-Ireland champions who, it's called a spade, I think nearly most people thought Limerick would win the All-Ireland. Then if they were to beat Tipp in the final, it'd just be unbelievable.
That's it, lads. By the way, there's John Duggan, who had all that memorabilia there. He has an article, 6 of the best hurling matches I've ever seen. That's on offtheball.com as well. Paul Lanigan actually on YouTube. With Fennelly's height and pace, would it not make sense to bring him out to the half forward and put Richie Hogan full forward? I don't think you could underestimate the pace and power that Fennelly has shown in full forward.
Interesting, that would be something different. They're preparing for one thing, and to throw them a little curveball at some stage would be interesting.
It might happen at some stage. Right, that's it for the Hurling Show. We'll be back at noon next Thursday for All-Ireland final reflections. Enjoy the game. Thanks very much, lads. We'll see you then.
The Hurling Show. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Italian summer. Living la